Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvin Vaux envisioned Central Park as a living embodiment of 19th century American landscape paintings. The Hudson River School, the forefront of American landscape painting at the time, was in the process of establishing a new form of art that emphasized the natural landscape of America. The movement sought to unify a recently divided nation by creating national pride in America's natural history. Central Park not only introduced a large-scale natural landscape into an American city, but also built upon ideas from the picturesque landscape movement. The design merged both smooth and rough picturesque elements and implemented formal neoclassical architecture. The Bethesda Terrace, placed at the center of the park, connects formal architectural space with the pastoral lake and the picturesque forest known as the Ramble. Olmsted firmly believed the antidote to the confinement of New York City was the synthesis of these elements. It provided both tranquility and excitement. Central Park embodied the democratic principles of America by providing an equal opportunity for a free and healthy natural environment to those who could not afford the time or money for excursions into the country. The public is meant to pass through the park and engage with its diverse passages of scenery and population. In this way, public parks serve to remedy moral decay and social disorder in urban environments.
The belief that everyone should have equal access to park space set forth in the design for Central Park would later influence the creation of other public parks throughout America. Taking precedence from the design of Central Park, Prospect Park, also designed by Olmsted and Vaux, aimed to provide a space for the emerging population in Brooklyn to take advantage of the benefits of exercise and relaxation that a park space could offer. Just as James Stranahan stated, Prospect Park would become a favorite resort for all classes of our community, enabling thousands to enjoy pure air with healthful exercise all seasons of the year. Stranahan further believed that the creation of a park in Brooklyn would also be effective at attracting wealthy residents into the emerging suburban city that Brooklyn was becoming. Learning from the design of Central Park, Olmsted and Vaux leveraged the use of overpasses to separate pedestrian and vehicular traffic. It also establishes a series of views and connections to the landscape through a meandering network of serpentine pathways. In the Prospect Park project, the Eastern and Ocean Parkways extended from the park and served as tree-lined spines for future residential development. These linear public landscapes provided recreational space in distant areas of the city.
Utilizing the unused space throughout the city of Boston, Olmsted partnered with Charles Eliot to develop a series of unbroken parks and parkways encircling the city. While this was a different approach than the other parks that Olmsted has worked on, it is still fundamentally rooted in the belief that all citizens should have readily available access to nature within an urban environment. This approach actually took this belief a step further by bringing the park space closer to all city dwellers through the implementation of smaller ribbon parks that wind throughout the city to stitch together the larger parks. This idea of connecting parks stemmed from the use of parkways in Olmsted and Vaux's earlier designs.
In 1908, the Commercial Club of Chicago commissioned architects Daniel Burnham and Edward Bennett to develop a comprehensive plan for the city of Chicago with the aim of uniting green spaces with the city's waterfront. Burnham and Beckett understood the importance of providing adequate parkland due to the industrialized nature of Chicago, understanding the role that parkland plays in improving the quality of life for all those living within the city. Their proposal consisted of an outer ring of parks and parkways in addition to the expansive waterfront parks. The implementation of the parks influences residents to remain in the area as well as attract new residents in future development.
The small park movement emerged from the desire to translate the ideas of large urban parks into small-scale spaces, specifically areas closer to the working class. These smaller parks grew advocacy because they became safe environments for children. The appeal for more active recreational spaces in parks became more popular at the turn of the century. Parks began to be defined more as playgrounds and open-air gymnasiums. In the first decades of the 20th century, parks shifted from an identity of pleasure to reform. Reform parks expanded upon the idea of social reconciliation in Central Park and more actively dealt with the growing immigration in the U.S. There was no longer a focus on landscape, but instead a focus on social and community interaction.
More contemporary parks like Van Valkenburg's Brooklyn Bridge Park still incorporate the lessons of Central Park. The design combines both active and passive recreation in a natural landscape. The park reconnects a 1.3-mile-long waterfront to the city. Formerly decaying piers are restored for both commercial and recreational use in an attractive park that contributes to the renaissance of the borough.
Central Park influenced the development of metropolitan cities and became a catalyst for the 19th century park movement. Parks became a necessary implementation to handle the growing population and density of cities. They also became a place where social and political issues of growing cities could be addressed. Being the first public park in America, Central Park set precedents for other parks to follow, intending to create a place that can be shared amongst all members of society regardless of economic and social status.